Hi, and welcome to the Alice Chen podcast. I'm here with Alice Chen, and we were talking about the formative years. We're going to go back in time a little bit and talk to Alice about her second and third year in the business. Alice, thanks for joining.
Of course. Yes.
And thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
This is awesome. So let's go back in time.
Yes.
Let's go back into those wonderful years.
Yes.
What year was it that we want to talk about today?
So we are talking about 2007 and 2008.
All the best years in the real
I
estate
know,
world.
the awesome years, right? So if we all remember, the market took a dump, right? To say the least. And I was just barely getting my feet wet. So I didn't even really know what was going on, to be honest. And then all of a sudden, the market tanked, prices plummeted, right? And I found myself, I was trying to learn as fast as I could, but then it's as if you're in the middle of a game and then the rules change, essentially, right? Because buyers couldn't get mortgages anymore, right? And then if you remember, everything was just, it was very difficult. There were a lot of sellers underwater. You started seeing short sales, right? And foreclosures. And so then I felt like I had to pivot and almost learn a totally different skill set than what I had been doing for the first 2 years in the business. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, sellers were coming to closing with money.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah, that was the first time in my career that I ever saw a seller come to closing with money.
With money, yeah, to just get it done.
Yeah.
And then what was commonplace? So on every deal, I had to create a seller's network sheet, basically to explain to them kind of what they would need to bring or what they would not, or if they would be, kind of even Stevens at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And they really did need to know that even before the preliminary settlement statement came out. And sometimes, they couldn't do it, or they had to borrow money, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of difficult situations for sure. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some stories.
Yeah.
What kind of things did you see back in 2007 and 8?
So so when the market tanked, it was a buyer's market, even though the mortgage industry, as you know better than I, totally changed.
Yeah.
And so it was very difficult. Actually, it went from easy to get a mortgage to really, really difficult. But it was still a buyer's market and rates were still low. They were still very low, actually. And the buyers, they sometimes would see, 50 homes, 100 homes before they would submit an offer because there was inventory. There's a lot of inventory, unlike today.
Yeah, much different.
Much different, yep. And there was a lot of negotiation. So again, it was very different. So we would submit an offer. We would create our offer. We would pull the comparables. We would submit it. And then there would be a ton of negotiation back and forth, right? Not only on price, but all the terms, really. And I think back during that time, and you really did need to have a lot of skills in order to get deals together. It wasn't like today where you get multiple offers and you do highest and best and it's all over within a weekend, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so communication was very key. That was during the time actually that we still faxed things, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Yes. Faxed offers, cover letters, all that jazz. Yeah. And then I think I started the business with a flip phone. And
what kind of flip phone?
I think it was a Samsung.
Samsung.
Yeah.
Was that when they had the Razor?
Yes. Did you have a Razor?
Yes, I had a
was
Razor.
just thinking about that phone the other day.
Yeah. They got real small. I remember the phones were super small, and then they got
they got really big. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then during that year too is when I got my first. It wasn't a Palm Pilot. It was a Sony Clee. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
Sony Clee.
Maybe look it up later.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
So basically, it was like a Palm Pilot, and it had a stylus. I was the coolest kid. Okay. So I had a stylus, and
I
it
remember
basically.
That. Wow, you're really going back, and this is bringing back memories.
It was a digital calendar. Yeah. And so I thought I was the sharpest thing, and so I carried that with me. I faxed offers. Yep. And then I'll never forget the one time where I had a relocation client coming in from, I think it was Texas, and they were purchasing, obviously. So they were only in for probably a 2 to 3 day period, very tight timeline. And so I must have showed them, I don't know, 25, 30 homes during that time period. And they liked a home and they wanted to submit an offer. So I prepped the offer, I submitted it, and I called the agent. And I don't think I texted her because back then it didn't really, it wasn't as easy to text. Left her a message and I said, hey, can you please confirm that you received this offer? No response. Okay. So then about 6 to 8 hours passed, still no response. So I called her again. Okay. Left another message. And by this point, the client, the buyer's like, what is going on? Like, we need to hear back. Like, otherwise we need to move on. And they're getting ready to leave again, like go back home. Right. And they haven't locked down a house. So they're getting nervous. So the next morning comes, still no response. And I'm like, what is going on? Okay. So I call her, and by now it's been over 24 hours. Okay. It's been maybe close to 36 hours. Okay. Yeah. And it's a seasoned agent, a very seasoned agent. Okay. At the time, she was definitely in the top 3 in Naperville. Okay. And I finally get a hold of her, and she basically goes on this tirade, this rant of, well, I've been on vacation and I don't have time for this. And Alice, you've only been in the business 2 years, so you have no idea what this is going to be like, and people just suck the life out of you. And I just need to know that if you got my offer, and like my client's been waiting, and like I don't really know what to say to them. And she just continues and goes on, right? So then at the end of the day, at the end of the conversation, she gets kind of amped up because I was like, okay, you got my offer then, right? When can we expect a response?
Let's do some business.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Stop making excuses.
And she's just like, well, I have other things that I'm doing. Like I said, I was on vacation, and what if I was taking a shit? Okay.
Oh my gosh.
And I you have to remember, Bill, I was all of 26 years old, maybe 27. 2 to 3 years in the business, and I literally, you could hear a pin drop. I didn't know what to say. I was like, well, you might want to see somebody, for that.
That was a long shit.
Yeah, I was like, okay then, Yeah. And so, I'll never forget that. Yeah, never forget that.
Wow.
Yep.
Is she still in the business?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I'm assuming she got out pretty quick after that.
Yeah.
maybe went and saw somebody, right? I mean, let's be honest. Back then, if you had somebody putting an offer on your place, it's like today's market, right? Like you're a buyer, you need to go in fast.
You do.
It'd be like somebody like saying they wanted to go buy a house in today's market and like waiting 3 or 4 days to just submit the offer.
Yeah, like
it's the opposite.
Hang out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
so I can't believe that was even there. Yeah. So wow. That's interesting.
Yep.
So she's no longer in the business. You're still in the business, just crushing it.
Yes. Thank you.
And you mentioned earlier before we got on, there was another situation that you had with like a wholesale situation.
Oh, yeah. So again, most people don't know this, but before I got my license and actually in real estate sales, I dabbled a little bit in the investing world. Okay.
Oh. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Wow. So I had a couple of rentals, and then I was a part of this investor, I guess, group, networking group. And they had meetings all over. This, again, was before the crash. They had meetings all over. And at one of the meetings, I learned about wholesaling. And I remember feeling a distinct sense of just like ick, like this is not right. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I was like, I don't know what about this is not good.
With that specific deal or with the wholesaling in general?
With the wholesaling in general.
Oh, wholesaling
like when
in general.
I first learned about it or
Okay.
sat in a, I guess, seminar environment where I was like, this is weird. So you mean to tell me that you're the middle person and that you're on the contract, but you're not really buying it. And then you're going to assign the contract and then basically pass the buck and then make the middleman fee. It just seemed really weird to me and kind of like slimy, to be honest. Yeah. So then I had a deal. This was probably 2.5 years into the business. I had the listing. I'm on the listing side now. And it was with a nice client couple that was moving to Indiana, if I remember correctly. and they were selling their house, and there were a lot of particulars about the deal that were already challenging. The house was in Bolingbrook, and so at that time, Bolingbrook had a lot of SSA, special service assessments, a lot of things that just most agents wouldn't even recognize or understand. And I do remember, I'm pretty sure there was an agent involved on the other side, because I most certainly did not perform dual agency on this one. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't. And so then the offer came in, and there was a buyer name on the offer. And I just assumed, bad assumption, I guess. I just assumed that that was the buyer. And what I didn't know, because I didn't have a lot of experience, is on the first page, it said the buyer's name, and then it said and or assignees.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, that's weird. And from my short sale education, I was like, I wonder if that's what they're going to do. But again, I represent my sellers. As long as they get to the closing table, it doesn't really impact me,
Yeah.
And I did check it. I did talk it through with my managing broker at the time, just to make sure, like, hey, I'm not doing anything illegal, right? Like, am I going to go to jail? Like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, because I'm green, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, again, your client is the seller. So just as long as everything checks out with the loan and, they close, that's fine.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was they did end up assigning it to the end buyers that I genuinely felt horrible for, because I don't think they knew what was really actually going on.
Oh gosh. Really?
So basically what they taught them in wholesale school was to basically locate a property, source it, put on there, that you're going to buy it and or assignees, and then basically essentially find a patsy and basically explain to this person that is not experienced in rentals at all, saying, hey, I found you a great property. You're going to buy it. Okay. And then you're going to rent it out, and you're going to make all this money. All right. This is what I think happened. So we sit at the closing table, and you could tell the actual buyers were like deer in the headlights, right? Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Right. And I almost felt like they were coerced into like signing.
Oh gosh. Really?
Yeah, it was
Yeesh.
really bad. And I just didn't say anything because it wasn't my place. But then afterwards, I found out, it was like not even a year or two later, I found out that property went in foreclosure.
Oh no.
Yeah. So clearly somebody did something shady.
Yeah. Yeah.
And lied to these poor people that ended up, I don't know, bamboozled, and buying this place.
Yeah.
But I do distinctly remember that, because I was on the list side, and I remember sitting there at the closing thinking, like, this is not right. Something is weird. But yeah.
Well, you'll see, and it just reminds me that we're kind of seeing this uptick in fraud right now too.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that when tough times come, that people start leaning into, I got to make money, so I'm gonna choose this path. I think a lot of the guys that were in the BC world, which is when we say BC, it's bad credit type of lending, or the non-conforming, or like, just the high interest rate, short term stuff.
Yeah.
That was before 2007, 2008. So you got like a lot of the overflow of these foreclosures because of the bad loans that were being made.
Yep.
And it made me feel icky too. Like that's kind of like the wholesale
I'm
world,
sure.
right? But
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
a lot of those people would filter off into loan modifications at the time, and then also wholesale as well.
Yep.
And you just started seeing that and then they got into short sales, and then that was tough too. So it was just a really, really interesting time. But it was also like you had to kind of watch yourself, because you never know if you're going to get stuck in a mix of somebody doing some shady stuff.
That's true.
So,
yeah. Like, and it's almost too late. Like when you find yourself in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And then where do you draw the line? Like my manager said at the time, like, well, you represent the seller. Like if you're on the buy side, obviously, then you need to say something, but I don't know. It was just a very awkward time also, because I was new still. I didn't know what was right or wrong necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, kudos for you to actually ask your managing broker.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I knew something was weird. Yeah.
That just says that like the wisdom you had to like, okay, or intuition that you had to know that something was just a little off with that.
Yeah.
What would somebody that is maybe in their second or third year, what's one advice or one piece of advice that you'd have for them, maybe in some situations like that, or like, in their first or second year?
I would just say just to always have a mentor, somebody, even if it's not like a formal coach or mentor, but it's just somebody who has more experience that they can kind of ask, or bounce ideas off of, like, hey, what do you think about this situation?
Yeah.
Or I think that was definitely very important for me because I didn't have the experience. So then I needed to really lean on my managing broker,
Okay. And who was your managing broker, by the way?
Well, at the time, so when I first started, it was Marge Nevin.
Okay.
And 2 years into the business, so in 2007, the years that we're talking about,
Yeah.
Linda Fogarty.
Okay.
They are both now retired, from the business, from managing. Yeah.
I was going to say that
they were
name
great.
sounds awful familiar.
Yeah,
Where
they were
was that,
wonderful.
at Coldwell Banker?
I was at Coldwell Banker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was at Coldwell Banker from 2005 to 2016. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So clients,
Yes.
how were all your clients during that time?
Oh gosh. They were really tough. Meaning because it was a buyer's market, right? They just felt this was the era of like the low offers, the low ball offers. Like, we're going to just see what we can get. And,
you can't do that today, can you?
Not really, not so much. Yeah. And there were a lot of clients. I'm trying to think. There was one client in particular that I worked with. It's a long personal story, but she was one of my really good friends. And we had a falling out, but she ended up selling her townhome and moving across the country. And she made a lot of life choices during that time, which, that's her prerogative. But I helped her with that. And that was a difficult sale, not because the sale was difficult, but just the dynamic and the personal emotional dynamic of it, And then I would say I had a mixture, but I was still heavy on buyers, more than sellers at that time. I still had listings, but I worked with more buyers.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And how long was it to show somebody a home and then find the right home at that time?
A long time. I would say on average, I probably showed at least 30 to 40 homes. Yeah. Because there's just so much
gosh.
inventory at the time. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
And then the short sales, the number of short sales or the percentage kept creeping up. I was noticing the number of distressed properties, vacant properties. It was just, that
was an animal in itself. I mean, everybody had to learn a whole new norm of short sales. So explain to people that may not know what a short sale is, because we don't see those too often. The weird part is I just closed one last week.
Okay.
It took us 3 months to get there.
Ooh,
but when you hear short sale, it almost sounds like, wow, I can get this really quick and really get a great deal on it.
Short and easy. Yeah.
It's going to be easy, right?
No. Yeah.
So talk about that.
Yeah. So short sale is basically when the homeowner is underwater. So based upon the current market value of the home and then how much they actually owe to either one lender or multiple lenders. And I've had during that time, I gained a ton of experience with short sales, and I actually worked with an attorney at the time almost exclusively on short sales because she's no longer actively practicing real estate law, but she had a staff at the time. And so then the staff, they were always on it, meaning every file would be called almost every single day.
Yeah.
Followed up on, where is the status? What else do you need? That sort of thing. And she knew exactly the entire hierarchy at that particular institution or bank and who we needed to talk to for the next step. So she was instrumental. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way I could have navigated short sales on my
own. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was when you found an attorney that actually knew what they were doing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like maybe a condo management company.
Yes.
There's with all due respect to condo management companies, there's more bad than there are good.
Yep.
Let's just be honest.
Yep.
And that was the same back then with the short sale attorneys. You had a lot of people that were fumbling, and you'd have clients waiting for a full year to close on their house.
Absolutely.
Which was ridiculous.
Absolutely.
These are homes. It's not like it's not like waiting for a layaway, something at Service Merchandise, which is an old blast from the past. I don't know if anybody remembers that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so that was kind of like a niche that you kind of got into
It
then.
was, yeah,
Okay.
like, not on purpose, not like it was almost on accident, really, because I found that it was a necessity.
Hmm.
I couldn't just only rely on the regular transactions. Otherwise, yeah. I mean,
Well, that's great that you said that because I think in this world we think we have a plan of how we should run our business,
mhm.
and a lot of times it's not even us that it's making that plan. It's the market, or maybe it's the area that you live in or circumstance. So I thought when I first got in the business, I was actually looking in Naperville
Mhm.
to set my roots and in business model and everything, and wound up most of my business came from Elmhurst
Oh, okay.
from an investor.
Wow. Okay.
So like you just have to adapt to the environment, and
Yep.
that's exactly what you did. So
Yep. Yep.
that you learned that early in your career.
I did. I did. The other thing I learned earlier in my career, I would say is, and I realized after I looked at, I have to be honest, I did some prep for this episode. I looked at kind of what my client list, just to refresh my memory, was at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And I also realized that like a lot of stuff that I guess for lack of a better word, put up with at that time, I would not at current Alice. You know what I mean? Like, and it's hard for me to explain, but like just certain personalities or the way like certain people maybe treated me or like just usage of my time, right? At the time I was new. I had all the time in the world,
hmm,
per se, right?
right,
And it was also before I had kids. I wasn't married yet, you know. And so all I had was time, right? And so a lot of these clients would run me ragged. I mean, they really
yeah, yeah,
would. And so in looking at that list and kind of just mentally preparing for this episode and the content, I was like, man, I don't think I would put up with any of this. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah,
Most of it, you know? And it's just amazing and so interesting and fascinating about like how your tolerance level and your mindset changes
yeah.
over
That's
the
good.
years. Yeah. But yeah, it dawned on
So
me.
when
Yeah.
you think back
Mhm.
at that time, do you have pleasant memories, or is it more
I
like, oh, that
do.
was this
Yeah.
drudge work?
No, I do. I mean, I think of it as like, when you start something, anything, like
Yeah,
that excitement is still there and the butterflies and like
yeah.
the newness, right? That's how I think of that time.
Okay.
There were a lot of mistakes that I made, going back. So let's talk about some of
Yeah.
those. So I tried a lot of things in the early years, meaning before I hired an admin, right? I thought it was a good idea to partner up with people. Like, oh, you're doing business, you're a licensed agent in my office, I'm a licensed agent. Let's work together. Let's
Yeah.
be team. Let's be partners, right?
Yeah.
Business partners. Bad idea.
Really?
Like bad
That's good to
idea
know
if
for
you
people
don't,
today too.
yeah, like bad idea unless like you really, you know, go through a very lengthy like vetting process. Like just because you're friends and you like each other, like doesn't mean that you're going to work well together. Like
Yeah.
that's what I didn't understand or
Yeah.
realize. And so I tried that. I tried partnering with an agent who was my friend as well in the office. And she had a lot of great ideas. And I thought that we would be a good match because our personalities weren't exactly the same. But I quickly realized that our work styles were very different. Like
Hmm.
she was not structured at all. And it was just very like just everything hitting the wall and just seeing what stuck
Yeah.
versus I'm more like, no, let's plan this out and let's figure out what we're doing. And she was more like by the seat of her pants,
Sure. Yeah.
And it got to a point where I'm glad I said something sooner rather than later, but it got to a point where I was like, I don't think this is going to work out and I don't want it to affect our friendship. So basically, we decided not to work together anymore. I mean, we could still help each other out and
Right.
cover for each other, but yeah,
How long did that last?
that partnership or
Yeah.
duo, I would say maybe about a year. So it was probably
Oh,
like
wow.
2007 to 2008 time period. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect
Maybe
time,
less than a
right?
year. Yeah. And then she'll resurface on a future episode actually. Because I stayed friends with her
Yeah.
and then something unfortunately happened where we had a huge falling out.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh, wow.
So at a
More to come.
much
More
later
to come.
episode. Yeah,
Okay.
much later. So anyways, but yeah, we tried to do it the whole business partner duo thing, and it just didn't really work out. Yeah.
So that is a great a piece of advice for anybody in today's market. I
Yeah.
think people are in today's world, everybody is gettable, I think, to a degree when it comes to either moving to brokerages or partnering up.
Mhm.
But I've seen some people do that, and I'm like, ugh, I don't
know
know.
if that's
I've
great,
done
yeah.
because I've tried that too, and it just doesn't work.
No.
I mean, especially if you're driven like you are.
Yeah, it's hard to find that like right fit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and you can find it, but it's not abundant. That right fit has to be just right.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm seeing a lot of people partner up. That's wild that you said that.
Yeah. So I would not recommend it, but that's just me, based on my experience. And
Mhm.
then after that is when I hired my first part-time assistant. And there was a lot of drama with that too.
Hmm.
So we can get into that. So my first admin or assistant started part-time. She was actually the front desk admin first for the whole office. And then another agent, I say there was a lot of drama is because another agent hired her first to be very
So you were
part-time.
sharing her.
So I was
basically.
sharing her. Yeah.
Right.
So she hired her first, and she probably worked for that agent, I would say 10 hours a week. I mean, not very many, 10 to 12. And then I got to a point, I saw that she hired her. This was like a few months into it. And then I saw how she was working, right? And I thought, I really do need help. Okay. It was at a point in my business. It was 2008, early 2008. So 3 years in, essentially. And I was just getting buried in paperwork. There was a lot of paperwork at the time. I mean, there still is, but
Yeah.
it's digital now. But
Right.
I was getting buried in just the monotony and the minutia of the admin work, entering in listings, marketing, like a lot of stuff, running, putting up signs, lockbox, like just all that, the admin work, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so it was getting to be too much to do that and the lead generating and the servicing clients right? So then I approached the agent, which was the right thing to do. And I said, hey, would you mind, could we share her? I don't know how many hours I can give her, but let's just start off slow and, we'll see how it goes. And she was fine with it. Okay. So then we shared her for a while. So she worked for her for 10 to 12 hours and then worked for me I think she started with only 6 hours because I was very timid. I wasn't sure how I was going to have enough income to pay her. That's the concern, right?
Yeah.
And then as she worked for me, she did different tasks for me versus the other agent. I just focused on my tasks,
Right.
but it was a very different list of tasks. And her tasks for me were more actual admin work, like driving the business, helping me on the back end. And it quickly became apparent that I needed her much more than even 12, 15 hours. So her position with me really grew,
Yeah.
exponentially. And so then there was drama because she confided in me at the time, and she said, I don't like working for that other agent.
Oh, geez.
And I said, well, that's a conversation that you're going to need to have with her.
Oh.
Like, you're putting me in an awkward
Yeah.
position now,
Right.
And so she was very young at the time, she was younger than and I was young, and so clearly she didn't have a conversation with her, and she just one day just told her that she wasn't going to work for her anymore and that she was going to work for me.
And she never talked to you about working full time. So you're like, okay, so I got to pay for this person.
So basically she I don't want to say she threw me under the bus, but
yeah.
And then, so there was a lot of fireworks and then the best part is when this happened, I wasn't even in the office because I was out showing homes.
Oh gosh.
So my phone's blowing up as I'm with the client, right? And it's that other agent, our shared admin and the managing broker in a conference room. They're all in tears, and they're calling me, blowing up my phone, and I can't answer because I'm showing homes, And so it was a mess. Yeah,
Oh
it was
my
a mess.
gosh.
And it really, the other agent and I were I guess that's the theme of the day. The other agent and I were friends. Like I
Yeah.
thought we were friends. And after that, she took it very personally. And
Yeah.
it was never the same. Yeah, our
Aw.
relationship. Yeah. So
Was the other agent busy? Because it sounded like you were ramping
she was
up.
busy. Yeah. So she was actually more seasoned than I.
Okay.
She was probably she started 2 or 3 years before I did, actually. And she was very busy at the time. And I don't really know. I mean, it's none of my business like what she has her do, but I think part of the problem stemmed from she had the admin do work that was she thought was like really menial. Like
Mhm.
I'll give you an example. Like she had this I think it was a coloring contest or no, it was holiday cards. Okay. So she printed out holiday cards, black and white,
Hmm.
instead of printing them in color. And then she had the admin color the front of the cards.
No way.
That's what she had her do with her time.
Wow. So
And
she's coloring the whole.
again, like none of my business because I'm not the one paying her. I mean, she could ask her to do whatever she wants
Yeah.
with her paid time, but
So wait, she's wait, she coloring with crayons?
no, I think it was with marker to be specific, but
Wow,
I mean,
before the technology really hit.
I know.
You know?
It was, I mean, again, I didn't say anything. It wasn't my place,
Yeah.
like, and if she really hadn't, if the admin really had an issue, I just feel like she should have said something. But again,
I'm still stuck on the coloring. Wow. Okay. Good.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks.
Oh my gosh, the marketing back then was just so high tech. Well, so I'm hearing
Okay.
some themes here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I really want to kind of just make sure that in 2007, 2008,
Yes.
you were single agent moving into 2007, right?
Yep.
All by yourself.
All by myself.
And then when did you take on the assistant?
I would say it was early in the year 2008. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I was just curious in that because that was one of my main thoughts when I was coming today was when did Alice
Decide.
start? Yeah, when did you start building and like what did your life look like before and what did it look like after?
Yeah. It was my life before, like right before I hired the assistant or admin. It was very chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
I was up, at all hours of the night doing marketing, just running the business. I mean, I never got a break really.
Yeah.
And so then I realized like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Most of the stuff, like I shouldn't really be doing. It's admin, it's paperwork, it's back end stuff. Like I need to do what I do best, which is out in front of clients. And so then that's what I had her do. Yeah. I had her drafting, listings, scheduling buyer tours. Cause back then, there was no showing time. So you called the agents to book the appointments, and then you had to map it all out the old fashioned way, right?
With MapQuest.
With MapQuest and the printouts and the whole bit. Yep. And then so she helped me do that. She helped me fill out like all of the back end paperwork. So like when something went under contract, we had to fill out like certain forms, even like the listing paperwork and the disclosures, right? Everything was paper back then, if you remember, right?
Yep.
So it was, she did all of that, installed signs, helped me install signs, lock boxes. We still had shoe covers back then, so all of that stuff, ordered brochures. What else? Scheduled the photographer.
Yeah.
Prep for closing. Yeah. There was a lot to do. I mean, there was a lot to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting to see, and just to kind of wrap this is that the theme that I'm hearing is that you were doing some soul searching at that time between 2 and 3 as far as business model and how you get to this, this whole different level.
Yep.
And you found yourself in a chaotic world. So then you started looking at maybe partnering, which a lot of people are doing in today's world.
They try it out. Yeah.
Yeah. That didn't work.
No.
Because you're running a business, right?
Yeah.
This is your business and you're an entrepreneur.
Correct.
And then you decided to try to share an assistant.
Yeah.
So what the theme is that if you want to run your business, you better be on top of it.
On top of it.
Yeah. And being that person versus sharing things. So you have to lead it. And I think that that's what you've done best in your career is you've figured that out early on in the first 2 or 3 years.
So 3 years. Yeah. And you just have to take that leap of faith. I know it's scary, but because I remember thinking, how am I going to pay for this person?
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't even have consistency myself, let alone add a person to the mix.
Yeah. And you said this before on one of my other podcasts that you mentioned. It was always stuck with me. You need it before you need it, before you
Correct.
think you need it.
Correct.
And that's what you really like. It sounded like you were kind of behind the eight ball.
Oh,
the
I was
whole
already,
time.
yeah. So even 2.5 years in, I would say at that time, right?
Yeah.
Not even 3 years, I was behind the eight ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I had to do it all over again, I would have hired somebody like 6 months in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So to rewind a little bit, episode 1 and 2, we were talking about just the introduction into real estate.
Yep.
And Alice mentioned that if you're year 1 and you're not seeing success, might be another conversation. But if you're seeing the success, it's time to bet on yourself.
It's time. Yeah.
And that's the number one thing I would encourage anybody.
Agreed.
So,
yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Alice, for this episode and going back in time to the wonderful years of 2007 and 2008. We loved it, didn't we?
Of course, yes.
Well, we'll see you on the next episode of the Alice Chin podcast. Alice, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill.